This is quite an interesting device that I bought while I was working in France some time ago. I was doing the effects light in a theme park, and on the way back to the apartment I'd pop into a place called Val de Europe. And it was a sort of shopping centre, and I'd get my shopping, go to a place called Café Casino and get a sort of like a buffet type meal, and occasionally buy a gadget. And one of the shops was a sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, cosmetics and, I don't know, pharmacy? I'm not even sure what was a pharmacy, but one of the things they had was this device. And it was sitting in their shop display, and it was just sitting like this, and there was like a fog of oil coming out the top, and it was creating quite a strong aroma. So I bought one. And it's really interesting because it works with, this is an air pump, and I think it's been repurposed. This one's called a booster, BOOST-R, by Actizco. Actizoo? Oh, Actizoo, I think it is. I'm not really sure, actually. And the way it works, it's got this really immaculately made glass jar, which looks like this, and it flares out at the top. And coming up from the bottom of it, I'll show you this and see if you can actually see this stuff, is a venturi arrangement made of glass. So it's got a glass tube that stops just short of the bottom, comes up and goes to a very fine point. It's just been pulled up and then cut. So it's got a very fine effective jet there, and then they've melted a bit at the bottom just to make it a place for oil to easily enter. And then from the side, at a slight angle, they've got another venturi effect, well, the jet, so to speak, also in the glass. It's possibly made from the same bit of glass, just pulled and then to a taper in the middle and then just cracked with either a hot wire or a file in the middle. But that has a compressed air line attached to it. And there's also a wee joint here of glass just to actually fuse them together, and then that's kind of like sealed in. It's all very clever. It's obvious that they must have melted a hole in the side after making this assembly externally, and then kind of hooked it through that hole, and then heated the glass again and very precisely fused this on. It's really neat. And what actually happens is when the air comes in, you've got some oil in the bottom here, and it's pulled up the inside of this, the first part of the venturi valve up to this nozzle by the vacuum of the air blowing across the top, because the air is going in. And the air is also effectively flowing out there as well. And what actually happens is it sprays it like a fine mist, but against the side of the bottle. And most of the oil just flows right back down to the reservoir. But the tiniest little droplets that get atomised from the tip, if they're small enough, they get carried up by the airflow, and they come out the top as very fine wisps of oil. And any larger droplets will precipitate down by gravity down into the oil. And there's another little bit here, which is this. And this actually goes in the top there, and it diverts it to the side. And that quietens it quite a lot, but it also means that when it gets to the end, if there's very little oil left, what sometimes happens is the oil gets drawn up in pulses, and it sprays, and it can actually spray out the top, so that's probably for that purpose as well. But yeah, so let's take a look at this. The pump itself, let's open the pump. I think this has been repurposed from, it's a standard aquarium style pump. What's it say in the bottom? It says, warning only for household use, Actizoo do not immerse, ne pas immerger. 220, 240 volt, 50 hertz, 2.5 watts. Oh, nice chunky screws. Okay. The air inlet appears to be under here. They've put a rubber grommet in to hold the glass thing, but I think they've actually just put that into an existing hole that was there for the air inlet, because there's a little bit of filter material under there as well, and a small hole. Inside is this adjustable, I've just suddenly realised that moves backwards and forwards. I thought that was just a wee adjustment valve, but it's actually moving the magnet backwards and forwards. That's quite neat. Does this, oh, this does lift out. Is this going to ping to bits? So this is a standard aquarium pump type arrangement where a magnet vibrates backwards and forwards. The magnet alternately goes between these two poles because of the reversing AC field and the fact it's a fixed ceramic magnet. So it vibrates backwards and forwards, and in doing so it effectively pushes that little, I don't even know if that's even going to show up too well, it pushes that little rubber diaphragm backwards and forwards, and there's an inlet valve and an outlet valve, and it basically lets air go in when it's pulling out the way, and when it pushes again, that closes and then air's pushed out the outlet. That's quite neat. The coil, is that going to go back in? Yes, it is. This just sits in a groove here which holds it in position. Oh, and it slides in this as well. So what about the coil? Is that something I'm going to regret? Hopefully a wire won't come off. There's built-in strain relief here. Let's move that again. Okay. The coil has its little tabs in the bottom. Oh, I wonder what that metal plate's for. Is that just to hold the coil in? Is it to align the plates? Is it maybe to stop noise? Is it a magnetic shunt? I think it might be to hold the coil in, but I'm not 100% sure. It could be a magnetic shunt. So maybe it's a magnetic shunt to actually always provide a constant magnetic load in this. That's probably what it is. Not really sure. The inductor experts will correct me. So this just sits in here. It's quite neat actually. The wire pushes down in a loop. Oh, and then this restraint, this bit here, pushes down into that, and that's the strain relief. Oh, that's very neat. Let's plug it in. Let's see if it all shoots everywhere as soon as I do that. So, let's see. Okay. It's drawing 1.7 watts. Will that vary as I pull this away? No, it doesn't really vary actually. It's just 1.7 watts all the time. Oh, it went up to 1.8 watts there. Will it go back down to 1.7, or is it just... I think it... yeah, it did. So it increases slightly the closer you get. What happens if I block the outlet? Oh, it went down to 1.4 watts. So it's seeing a lot more inductive back EMF to block the flow of current through the coil. Well, that's quite neat. In use, this one you just tend to leave it full output. Okay, so let's put it back together. That was quite neat. I've never seen that arrangement of winding that backwards and forwards before, but then again I can't say I've really opened many pumps. There's also that strange, what's that for? It's a little channel in there that just goes straight out the bottom again. It must be for something else. Not 100% sure. Oh, and there's a screw hole in here for putting a tapper into, so maybe it's for hanging it, maybe. That's possible, it might be for hanging the pump. I'm not 100% sure. That would certainly provide good acoustic isolation. So let's put the screws back in, make sure it still works, put it together, put some oil in, and see it working, and see how well it shows up in the camera. It's got these little rubber feet in the bottom, and they're supposed to dampen the noise, but I don't know if it's just because it's quite old, or it's just maybe, well, it makes a loud squeaking noise when it's on here, when it's under load. So let's wind that out. That's it at full tilt. I'll shove that in there. Put that on there. And then I shall put some oil into it. I'm not sure this is going to show up, but we'll find out when I tip it up and pour some in. Plenty in, so that is putting out quite a vapour of oil, as you can see. It's very visible, isn't it? I'm trying to actually get the right angle so it can actually pull the oil into it to actually keep the vapour going out. It's very good. It's a nice effect. It's just this continuous, what I see here is a cloud of vapour that's actually quite solid, and it goes up quite a height. It disperses into the air, and oh yeah, the smell of that oil is just like really strong now. And they kind of sold these as if they were for, now I'll put this in now and see what happens. And it actually, oh it does actually, you can see the jet of, I'm not sure if that will be visible now, but it's, I can still see this fair jet of the oil coming out, but I don't think it's showing up so well on camera. But you can still see the atomised oil coming out of it. And these were kind of sold, the instructions, they were all in French obviously because it's a French product. They implied that it was for medical establishments for purifying the air with the essential oils. Oh, that's actually really overpoweringly strong actually. That is very strong because I'm right click next to it. But yeah, that's actually, it's a neat gadget, and I like it, and I like it a lot, because I'm just trying to think if there's another way I can actually show you the oil coming out that's actually going to show it up better. I think a torch shone directly across it. Is that going to make it more visible? Let's maybe just a wee bit narrow that torch. But yeah, it's a good effect. Quite a neat little gadget indeed, and it runs for ages. It hardly uses any of the oil at all. I suppose it's a bit like an oil cracker that you might find in a theatrical application, which works in a similar principle, but the oil crackers in theatres, they tend to, or studios, they tend to use a bath of very light mineral oil, and they have an air stone under it that, or jets that create, that compressed air or carbon dioxide is forced through those jets. And as the bubbles rise up to the top and they burst, it forms lots of tiny little droplets of oil. And the heavy ones stay in the tank, but the light ones get carried out by a very controlled airflow. So I suppose it's a bit something like that, but just on a much smaller scale. But this does put out a surprising amount of the haze. Yeah, it's a neat gadget. Yeah, I've not had this out for a while, that's good. I think I'll keep it out for a while.